Hey guys, thank you for joining me. Today we'll be making honey wine, traditionally known as Indulge in Amharic and Mes in Tigrinya. So let's get started. This is essentially the sanitation process. A very clean and uncontaminated space and tools are extremely necessary. Once it's sanitized, we're going to grab our honey and start pouring it into our container. It's going to be 1 part honey to 3 parts water. And room temperature water is perfectly sufficient. Once you have the water and the honey poured into the container, you want to thoroughly mix it until the honey is completely dissolved. You're welcome to use your hand or a wooden spoon or any mixing tool. You just want to make sure whatever you're using is completely clean in order to ensure this is done very well. If you're using your hand, wear a glove. The idea is to dissolve the honey and do it with no contamination. So you're going to continue to stir so everything mixes and blends very well. And here I like to add some food coloring. I think besides how this tastes, how it looks also has to be a treat. And I love a good mustard yellow shade for this. So you can use either yellow food coloring, or in this case I'm using turmeric. Mix about a tablespoon of it with some of the honey water mix and let that blend into it. The end result is going to give it a really good color that I think you're going to be pleased with. So we're gonna seal it here. I can't emphasize the importance of making sure it's completely sealed during the fermentation process. No air should be able to disturb it, so make sure you're sealing it completely. Also, make sure you don't let any water touch it from here on out. That means any spoon or pot you use moving forward has to be completely dry. If you touch it, make sure your hand is completely clean and dry as well. So once it's sealed, set it aside in a space that's not too hot but also not too cold, so it can begin to do its thing. You'll leave it alone for 3 days, so we're going to go ahead and seal it and set it aside, and we'll be back in 3 days. Okay, so this is 3 days later. You're gonna go ahead and unwrap the seal, and look at that, how beautiful that looks. So those bubbles are an indication that the yeast did what it's supposed to do. At this point, you want to take the geisha and put it in a pot and add 3 to 4 cups of the honey water mixture that you've been fermenting. And place that on the stove top on high until it starts to bubble and it really starts to cook and absorb the geisha. So this is what you want to see. Once you see it bubble and boil, then turn it off and let it sit until it's completely cooled down to room temperature. This could take a few hours, but this is very important. Make sure it's completely cooled down, then pour the entire thing into your honey water mix that you've been fermenting. And make sure that you stir it with a dry spoon. Then once again, we're going to make sure it's completely sealed, then set it aside like we did earlier. But this time we set it aside for 2 weeks. So set it and forget it. Shout out to the 90s infomercials, and we come back to it in 2 weeks. So the moment you've been waiting for, so this is now 2 weeks of fermentation. Every step we took to get here has been aiding in the honey wine process. And the longer you let it sit, the stronger it gets. But for me, 2 weeks is definitely sufficient. So we do a taste test to see how it all came together. And it was really, really good. I loved the way it tasted. It turned out really well for me, and I'm actually gifting these to my friends and family. So I have these bottles that I'll fill up. And notice I'm using a strainer so that the geisha pieces don't end up in the bottle. Having a starter is ideal, so what I'm doing here is saving a little bit in a bottle and adding a little honey to it. I'll refrigerate that, and the next time I want to make this again, I have a starter to get me going.